Hello students, welcome to Skholar, your one-stop solution for IAS preparation. Students, my name is Anubhav Sir and I am your faculty for Indian Polity, and in today's lecture we will be understanding about a very important chapter of Indian Polity, and that is citizenship. So students, we will be studying about citizenship in this module. Now the first thing that you must be wondering about is what exactly do we mean by citizens? Now, आसान भाषा में, आम भाषा में citizens मतलब नागरिक. Citizens are the people who are residing in a particular country. But then we would need to understand a bit more about what exactly do we mean by citizens. What exactly are those privileges that comes with being a citizen of a country, and what exactly are the responsibilities that also comes with being a citizen of a country. So when we talk about citizenship, we first would need to understand something called citizens and something called aliens, and we'll try to understand it in context of Indian citizenship. So citizens are those people who are considered as full members of Indian Union. So the first thing that you need to keep in mind, that people who are called as citizens in context to India are those people who are called as the full members. वो complete तरीके से members माने जाएंगे Indian Union के, Indian nation के. These citizens would need to owe their allegiance to Indian state. This is very obvious. अगर आप Indian हैं, you would need to owe your allegiance to India. They are entitled to civil and political rights. This again is a point which I just discussed. कि अगर आप citizen हो जाते हैं किसी देश के, certainly you would be entitled to certain rights. You would be entitled to certain political rights, certain civic rights. Now, students, something that you need to keep in mind before we proceed is that how exactly do we look upon as the nature of relationship between state and its citizen? हम किस तरीके से देखते हैं क्या रिलेशनशिप है एक कंट्री का अपने सिटीजन के साथ. पर इसके लिए मैं एक फ्रेमवर्क आपको बताऊंगा एंड मैं चाहूंगा कि आप इस बात को ध्यान रखें दैट एसेंशियली व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट अ कंट्री वी आर एक्चुअली टॉकिंग अबाउट द सोसाइटी. हम एक सोसाइटी की बात करते हैं. हमने डेमोक्रेसी के चैप्टर में भी इस बारे में पढ़ा था. Essentially what we are talking about is that there is a society, and this society would need to create those societal norms which must be followed by everyone, which must be adhered to by everyone. In return of this, society will give you certain services. For example, society would require on part of its citizen to follow laws. It would want the citizen to ensure social order. It would give certain prescriptions as to how you should be conducting yourself while you are in society, while you are in your community. In return of it, what happens? Society will give you certain rights. Society will give you certain protection. For example, Indian society gives its citizen the protection of police. Like if any act is being done against you, which amounts to a criminal act, you can approach to police to get their assistance. What exactly are you getting? The fact that you are following the law and the fact that it is you who is actually becoming a victim of any person's act, you can just go to police station, you can register your case and police will protect you. So what exactly has happened? Essentially what has happened is that society told its citizen that you would need to follow certain laws, certain rules, certain norms that we have created. In return, society will give the citizen a lot of facilities, a lot of rights, a lot of protection, and all sorts of liberties by which this person can grow in the society. Thus, essentially, there is an engagement, there is a contract which is happening between the society and every citizen. This contract is what we call a social contract in sociology, and if you were to think about it, citizenship is actually that social contract when we look at it from standpoint of political rights. I hope this point is absolutely clear, and if you keep this in mind, you'll actually be able to understand citizenship in a more effective manner. Now we come to aliens. We have just understood citizens. Now let's try to understand non-citizens, that is aliens. There are two kinds of people in Indian state. Who all are these two people? Citizens and aliens. Who are aliens? Aliens are the citizens of some other state and cannot claim political and civil rights in India. For example, in India, right to vote is exercised only by Indians. So it cannot be that a person, let's say from United States of America or United Kingdom comes to India, and the sheer fact that he is in India during the time of elections doesn't mean he will get the right to vote. It will always be only to the Indians. It will always be a right that will be given to the citizens of India. So this again is a point that you need to keep in mind, that with respect to aliens, they will not be given certain political and civic rights as are given to the citizens of that country. There are two kinds of aliens. Even with respect to aliens, there is a division. The first is friendly aliens and second is enemy aliens. Now, you may be wondering what exactly is the difference between the two. Well, when we talk about friendly aliens, what we say is that these are those aliens, these are those people who belong to those countries with whom India is having a cordial relationship. India is having a friendly relationship. For example, we know India has very good relationship with Japan. India has very good relationship with Australia. So, such countries with whom India is having friendly relationships, if the citizens of those countries are visiting India, or for that matter, citizens of those countries, they will be taken as friendly aliens. I hope this point is clear. But we also know that when we talk about country like India, we are surrounded by such countries with whom India is at war. India has a lot of land disputes, so on and so forth. So the second category of aliens is enemy aliens who belong to those countries with which India is at war. For example, Pakistan. We know India has been at a constant state of war with Pakistan for a number of years. So all the citizens of Pakistan will be looked upon as enemy aliens. So what exactly have we understood so far? What we have understood is that when we talk about citizenship, we essentially are talking about a social contract that is happening between the member of a society and society itself. Society will give certain services in exchange of which the citizen would need to follow the laws and norms prescribed by the society. We also understood that there is another category of people that is called aliens. These are those people who are not the citizens of the country. These aliens can actually be divided into two categories. What are these two categories? That is friendly aliens who belong to those countries with whom India has good relationship. And then enemy aliens, that is those countries with which India is having troubled relationship with the countries with which India is at war, for example, Pakistan. I hope everything that we have covered so far is clear. Now, students, the next point that you must be thinking about is that, sir, हमने ये समझ लिया citizens कौन है, हमने ये समझ लिया aliens कौन है. Citizens पे आपने ये बात बता दी कि जो citizens होंगे उनके पास कुछ rights होंगे और वो rights ऐसे होंगे जो aliens के पास नहीं होंगे. अब सवाल ये आता है, what all are those rights? Now let's try to understand that. So, what all are the rights that are available to Indian citizens? The rights and privileges which are exclusively available to Indian citizens and not to aliens are, so what all are the rights that we are discussing right now? The rights which applies only to citizens of India and not to the aliens, not to the people who are not citizens of India. The first right is, among some of the rights in fundamental rights, we have Article 15. Students, we will be studying about all these articles in detail when we study about fundamental rights. But just for the sake of understanding, and once you have studied fundamental rights and you'll come back and you'll understand it again, your understanding will be deeper. But for now, just try to remember everything that I'm explaining here. So with respect to fundamental rights, Article 15 is one of those rights which does not apply to aliens, but Article 15 can be enjoyed by the citizens. Right against discrimination on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth. So this is a right which aliens would not have. Then there is Article 16. What does Article 16 says? It says right to equality of opportunity in matter of public employment. So we know there is a right called Article 16. What exactly is that right? That right is pertaining to equality of opportunity. That is, if there are vacancies for public employment, state cannot discriminate among citizens and state would give equal opportunity to all the citizens. This right, Article 16, does not apply to aliens. That is, if you are not a citizen of India, you will not get the benefit of not being discriminated by the state. State can make those policies with respect to non-citizens, that is aliens, which has a discriminatory nature that is there in Article 16. That is, Article 16 bars any discrimination of opportunity. But since you are not a citizen, you will not be given this privilege. You will not be given this right. I hope this point is also clear. Then we have Article 19, that is right to freedom of speech and expression, assembly, association, movement, residence and profession. So this again is very important to note that state can regulate the activities of an alien. State can actually bar a non-citizen from exercising his right to expression for the reason state may feel that what you are doing is something to which you do not have right for. State or constitution does not give you protection if you want to say anything which state does not believe to be in the interest of India. Thus, right to freedom of speech and expression does not apply to aliens. In the same manner, right to assembly or right to association or movement is something which again cannot be claimed as a fundamental right by aliens. State can actually bar any association, any movement which is being done by aliens, and that alien cannot seek protection under Article 19. Then we have Article 29 and 30, that is cultural and educational rights. This again is something which is very important for you to note, that we have in Article 29 and 30, which mainly pertains to cultural rights and educational rights. This again is something which an alien cannot claim to have. This alien, if a state has taken any decision, अगर गवर्नमेंट ने कोई डिसीजन लिया या कोई एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट जो एक एलियन ने एस्टैब्लिश किया है, state can actually take decisions which may pertain to closing that educational institute or that cultural institute, so on and so forth, if the body which is governing it is comprising of people who are not the citizens of India. This again is something that you need to keep in mind. So what exactly are those fundamental rights which does not apply to aliens? We have Article 15. What is Article 15? वो ये कहता है जो right against discrimination है, जो एक सिटीजन को, भारतीय नागरिक को मिलता है, वो आपको नहीं मिलेगा. स्टेट जो गवर्नमेंट है वो ऐसी पॉलिसीज बना सकती है, वो ऐसी कदम उठा सकती है जहां एक डिस्क्रिमिनेटरी नेचर हो और आप आर्टिकल 15 के अधीन उसको अपनी प्रोटेक्शन नहीं मांग सकते. एंड वी हैव आर्टिकल 16. आर्टिकल 16 इज इक्वालिटी ऑफ अपॉर्चुनिटी इन पब्लिक एम्प्लॉयमेंट. ये भी सिर्फ एक सिटीजन को मिलेगा, एक एलियन को नहीं मिलेगा. आर्टिकल 19 फ्रीडम ऑफ एक्सप्रेशन, दैट स्टेट अगर चाहे तो नॉन सिटीजन्स की activities with respect to freedom of expression, with respect to making associations, with respect to movement, उसको रोक सकती है, कर्ब कर सकती है. और आर्टिकल 19 की जो प्रोटेक्शन है एक एलियन को नहीं मिलेगी. आर्टिकल 29-30 भी इसी तरह के राइट्स है जो कल्चरल एंड एजुकेशनल राइट्स है जो सिर्फ भारतीय नागरिक को मिलेंगे, बट एक फॉरेनर को जो एलियन है नहीं मिलेंगे. Then we have other rights. The first other important right which does not apply to aliens, that is aliens cannot claim this right, and very important one is right to vote, something that we have discussed, that an alien cannot have right to vote in elections of the Lok Sabha and state legislative assembly. A person cannot go and vote in these elections. In the same manner that alien cannot also have the right to contest for membership of parliament and state legislative assemblies. What exactly are we trying to say? That let's say there is a state election which is happening in the state of Kerala. So you would want people to stand in election. There will be a contest that will happen. The minimum requirement for the person to stand in that election is the fact that that person will need to be a citizen of India, which means that a person who is not a citizen of India cannot even stand in the election, cannot go and vote in state legislative assembly elections, or for that matter, union parliament elections. Eligibility to hold certain public offices such as President, Vice President, Governor of a state, Judges of Supreme Court, High Court, Attorney General of India, Advocate General of a state. So what exactly are we trying to say here? That when it comes to minimum requirement for a person to actually go and become and hold these very important offices, one such minimum requirement is that for that person to be a citizen of India. I hope this point is clear. There are some examples. अगर आप प्रेसिडेंट बनते हैं तो आपको भारतीय नागरिक होना जरूरी है. उपराष्ट्रपति बनते हैं तो भी भारतीय नागरिक होना जरूरी है. If you want to become a governor of state, this again is a necessity. In the same manner, even for judges of Supreme Court and High Court and Attorney General of India and Advocate General, you being a citizen of India is a very important necessity. Then what exactly is the role of constitution in matters of citizenship? What exactly is the role that constitution is playing? Let's try to understand. That constitution mainly deals with the aspect of citizenship in Articles 5 to Article 11 in Part 2 of Indian Constitution. This again is very important for you to note for the reason this has been a question that has been asked both in UPSC and is a very popular question in PCS exams. आर्टिकल 5 से आर्टिकल 11 जो पार्ट 2 है भारतीय संविधान का, उसमें सिटीजनशिप की बात की गई है कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में. It discusses only about the provisions that entitle citizenship during the commencement of the constitution and does not contain any permanent provisions for citizenship. This again is something that must be understood here, and that will make our understanding of the upcoming points easier. That is, that at the time when the provisions of Article 5 and Article 11 to Article 11 was put in the Constitution, the idea was that it entitles, or rather it enlists those provisions which entitle citizenship during the commencement of the Constitution. कि भारत के संविधान के प्रारंभ होते ही what exactly will be the provisions that a citizen would have, right? But it does not contain any permanent provisions of citizenship. That is, the provisions which are given are only indicative, are given in a way in which you would need to make an act by which you can list those provisions by which someone could be given a citizenship or who exactly will be called a citizen. I hope this point is clear. This again is very important for you to note. It has been mentioned the following 4 types of people to be eligible for citizenship during the commencement of Constitution. We know the Constitution of India commenced on 26 January 1950. So what exactly is this point saying? The point ये कह रहा है that Constitution mentions that there are 4 types of people who can become citizens of India, who are eligible for citizenship of India. Who all are these 4 people? The first is persons of domicile in India, and that is what Article 5 says. Persons migrated from Pakistan, Article 6. Then persons migrated to Pakistan but later returned, Article 7. Persons of Indian origin residing outside India, Article 8. Let me just explain you and give you some context with respect to it. So persons domiciled in India, what exactly happened at the time of India getting independence? There was something that was called as partition. In partition, India and Pakistan, 2 countries got made out of India. At that time, the issue of citizenship was being discussed. It was decided that all those people who are residing in India but on 26 January 1950 will be given Indian citizenship. It was also decided that with respect to people who are residing in Pakistan who would now want to migrate into India because they would want to still be a part of India, those people too will be given Indian citizenship. So this is what Article 6 says, that persons migrated from Pakistan because partition has happened. People would want to come to India. They would want to be called as Indians. They don't want to stay in a new country that is being formed. Those people will be given Indian citizenship. Then persons migrated to Pakistan but later returned, and that is Article 7. This again is very important to note. So essentially during the time of partition, students, what was happening? There were people from Pakistan who were now coming to India, and there were people from India who were going to Pakistan as they thought that their interests will be better served if they become a part of Pakistan as a nation. But once they had gone to Pakistan, they were facing, there were a number of issues that they were facing. What exactly were the issues? They were not being treated in a kind manner. There was a lot of violence that was happening. The opportunities for the people who were migrating from India to Pakistan was very limited. Keeping all that in mind, essentially what was happening was that a lot of people who had left for Pakistan, who had reached Pakistan from India, they were now coming back to India. So even with respect to those people who are realizing that they would want to live their life in India and not in Pakistan, even for those, an Article 7 was brought in Indian Constitution, which mainly deals with people migrated to Pakistan but later returned. Then we have persons of Indian origin residing outside India, that is Article 8. What exactly does this article say? That it is not necessary that a person is called Indian only if he is staying in India. It may be that in some circumstances, a person who essentially is from Indian origin, but he is residing in a country which is not India. Even with respect to that category of people, Constitution says that there is a way in which these people can retain their citizenship, or for that matter can even attain Indian citizenship. We will discuss about that in detail. So what exactly are we seeing here and what are the points that you need to keep in mind? आपको 4 points है, ये कुछ points है जो आपको ध्यान में रखने हैं प्रीलिम्स के एग्जाम से. पहला, जब हम भारत के संविधान की बात करते हैं, essentially constitution speaks about 4 types of people who can become eligible to be citizens of India. वो कौन से 4 तरीके हैं, वो कौन से 4 categories हैं? पहले है people who are domiciled in India on 26 January 1950. What exactly are we trying to say? कि जो लोग भारत में रह रहे थे उनको सिटीजनशिप दे दी गई, यही आर्टिकल 5 कहता है. आर्टिकल 6 क्या कहता है? They were people who were coming from Pakistan. जैसा कि मैंने बताया कि क्योंकि पार्टीशन हुआ था, they were people जो पाकिस्तान से भारत में आ रहे थे. आर्टिकल 6 कहता है कि उनके लिए भी सिटीजनशिप है. देन आर्टिकल 7 क्या कहता है कि देयर वर पीपल जो भारत से पाकिस्तान गए बट बाद में उनको रियलाइज हुआ कि दे आर इंटरेस्ट ऑफ गेटिंग बेटर सर्व्ड इन इंडिया, तो वो पाकिस्तान से वापस भारत आ गए. इवन विद रिस्पेक्ट टू दिस क्लास ऑफ सिटीजन्स, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन सेज कि इनको भी सिटीजनशिप मिलने के लिए एलिजिबल है. एंड देन फाइनली इन आर्टिकल 8 व्हाट एग्जैक्टली कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन सेज कि भारत के ओरिजिन के लोग, पीपल फ्रॉम इंडियन ओरिजिन हु आर रिसाइडिंग नॉट इन इंडिया बट इन अदर कंट्रीज, जो भारत के देशों में रह रहे हैं, वो भी एलिजिबल हो सकते हैं if they are fulfilling certain conditions to become Indian citizens. So what exactly Article 6 says? A person who is migrant from Pakistan. What is the basic condition? Person, parents, grandparents born in undivided India. They migrated before July 49. If that is the case, then what happens? Ordinarily residing in India since the date of migration, migrated after July 1949, then registered as citizen of India by being a resident in India for 6 months before registration. So this again was the provision which was put in place. You essentially do not need to get into this detail as much, but you can still read it and it will stay in your mind. What exactly is it saying? कि अगर आर्टिकल 6 को इन्वोक करके कोई भारत की सिटीजनशिप लेना चाहता है, बट एग्जैक्टली आर्टिकल 6 कि भाई जो पाकिस्तान से भारत में आया है तो उनको क्या करना होगा कि उनको बेसिक कंडीशन ये फुलफिल करनी होगी कि उनके जो पेरेंट्स है या ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स है वो भारत, एक अनडिवाइडेड इंडिया में उनका जन्म हुआ था. दूसरा, अगर ये जो लोग हैं जो पाकिस्तान से भारत में आ रहे हैं ये माइग्रेट करते हैं भारत में 1949 से पहले, तो हम क्या बोलेंगे कि जो नॉर्मल सिटीजन है इंडिया के, इनको उसी कैटेगरी में रखा जाएगा. लेकिन अगर पाकिस्तान से जो भारत में आ रहे हैं वो माइग्रेट करते हैं भारत में आफ्टर जुलाई 1949, सो व्हाट विल वी से? We will say that you can still become a part of India, but you would first need to stay in India for 6 months. Then you need to get yourself registered, and then you can be the citizen of India. Then we have Article 7. What exactly does Article 7 say? It says कि पहले वो पाकिस्तान गए, then उनको लगा कि भारत में उनको आ जाना चाहिए, returned India later for resettlement, and then they again would need to reside in India for 6 months before applying to become citizens of India via registration. I hope Article 6 and Article 7, both of them are absolutely clear. Then we have Article 8 also. So it is exactly the same that we have discussed. Now, the next question that we need to understand is that what exactly is the role that Parliament is playing in matters of citizenship. बट जब हम मैटर्स ऑफ सिटीजनशिप की बात करते हैं तो पार्लियामेंट जो है वो क्या रोल प्ले कर रहा है? कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन हैज डेलीगेटेड द पावर ऑफ डीलिंग विद सिटीजनशिप ऑन मैटर्स ऑफ सिटीजनशिप आफ्टर कमेंसमेंट ऑफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन टू द पार्लियामेंट. दैट इज, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन जहां कुछ आपको डायरेक्शंस देता है, इट गिव्स द डायरेक्शंस टू द people of India, to the parliament, that provisions with respect to Article 5 to 11 would need to be adhered. At the same time, what it does is that with respect to the specifics, with respect to the details, it will be done by the parliament. The responsibility है with respect to drafting the details, drafting those conditions on which the 4 categories of people which we just discussed can become the citizens of India. This duty was endorsed to the parliament कि पार्लियामेंट आप एक्ट बनाइए, कानून बनाइए, उस कानून के अधीन जो भी आप प्रोविजंस रखेंगे उसको फॉलो करना जरूरी है इन 4 क्लासेस ऑफ सिटीजन्स को if they want to become citizen of India. I hope this point is clear. Therefore, Citizenship Act 1955 provides for acquisition and loss of citizenship after the commencement of the Constitution, which has been amended several times. तो हमने क्या समझा? बहुत सिंपल तरीके से समझते हैं. कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ने आर्टिकल 5 से आर्टिकल 11 दिया, जिसमें उसने अलग अलग तरीकों से सिटीजनशिप के बारे में कुछ हमें स्पेसिफिक्स, कुछ हमें डिटेल्स दी। But at the same time, Constituent Assembly इस बात को समझती थी that with respect to the framework, with respect to the structure, it needs to be done by the Parliament, क्योंकि बहुत ही fluid issue है, बहुत ही dynamic issue है। हम लोग आज कुछ ऐसे provisions नहीं दे सकते जो एक permanent nature का काम करे। It needs to be decided by the Parliament of the day based on the necessities of the country. इस चीज को ध्यान में रखते हैं उन्होंने डायरेक्ट किया पार्लियामेंट को that you would need to make a law, and that law became Citizenship Act of 1955. And in this law, in this act, you would need to list, you need to explain all those provisions, all those criteria which everyone would need to follow in order to qualify to become a citizen of India in the 4 categories which we just discussed. I hope this point is clear. Another point to note here is that this Citizenship Act of 1955 has been amended a number of times. Now students, there are different ways in which citizenship can be acquired. What all are those ways? Let's try to understand them. The Act prescribes 5 ways of acquiring citizenship. The first way is by birth, that if you're born in India, you will be called as citizen of India. Then there's something called citizenship by descent. Then there's something called citizenship by registration. There's something called citizenship by naturalization. And then incorporation of territory. Let me just explain this point one by one so that it becomes absolutely clear. So, citizenship by birth, that is a person who is born in India, that person automatically would become citizen of India. Citizenship by descent, that it may be that you are not born in India, but your parents were born in India. Even with respect to that, there are provisions which has been given in 1955 Act of Citizenship, and that person can still become citizenship of India. Then there is something called citizenship by registration. What is citizenship by registration? It is pretty simple. Now, there could be aliens who have come to India. By aliens, I mean not the aliens of the other planets, but the non-citizens, the people from other countries who would want to become citizens of India. So we have these aliens who are residing in India. There are certain conditions that they would need to fulfill in order to apply to become citizens of India. When they apply for it, what exactly are they trying to do? They are trying to register themselves to become citizenship of India, and that again is a procedure that is called registration. Via registration, you can get served. So, what exactly can be the criteria or the circumstance in which someone may apply for it? If a person has stayed in India for 5 to 7 years, that person can apply for this. Or for that matter, a person who has married an Indian citizen, that person can also apply to become Indian citizen under registration. I hope this point is clear. Then we have another process, that is process of naturalization. This again is a way in which a person can become citizen of India. And then incorporation of territory. That is, if India has acquired some territory, that territory which India has acquired is now a part of India. Once it becomes a part of India, all the people who are residing within that territory are also part of India. They are also Indians, thus they will also be given Indian citizenship. We know the same happened with Goa when India had occupied, India had taken Goa back into Indian territory. Now, there is some exemptions that you need to keep in mind that government of the day, that is government of India, may waive off conditions of naturalization in case of a person who has rendered distinguished service to the science, philosophy, art, literature, world peace or human progress. So this again is a point that you can keep as a caveat. What exactly is it saying? कि अगर भारत सरकार को ऐसा लगता है कि we would want someone to become a part of India, someone to become a citizen of India, और उनको लगता है कि ये व्यक्ति इनका जो contribution है साइंस में, फिलोसफी में, आर्ट में, लिटरेचर में, वर्ल्ड पीस में या ह्यूमन प्रोग्रेस में बहुत ज़्यादा लैंडमार्क है, बहुत ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है, तो ऐसी सिचुएशन में गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया जो कंडीशंस है नेशनलाइजेशन की उसको वेव ऑफ कर सकता है. There are few things that you would need to keep in mind. You need to note what exactly are these things. पहला, that every naturalized citizen must take an oath of allegiance to the Constitution of India. हर वो व्यक्ति जो naturalized citizen बनता है उसको जो भारत की संविधान है उसके प्रति अपनी श्रद्धा दिखानी पड़ेगी. You would need to take an oath of allegiance that I will follow Constitution of India. I will treat it as a holy book. I will try to not do anything which is against the Constitution of India. Second, in India, both a citizen by birth as well as naturalized citizen are eligible for the office of president. This again is something that you can keep in mind, and this again is something that has been asked in UPSC Prelims examination. This is very important for you to know. But exactly is the same कि भारत में अगर किसी को राष्ट्रपति बनना है, someone wants to become the president, if the person is a naturalized citizen, he is still eligible, or if that person is a citizen by birth, of course, he will be eligible to become the president of India. Then, when we talk about USA, what exactly is the case? That only those citizens who are citizens by birth can actually become the president of United States of America. Another important point that you need to keep in mind कि US में जो system है वहाँ पे ये है only those people who are born in USA and their citizenship is derived from their birth. Only those people can become the president of the United States. But in India, even people who are naturalized citizens can also apply to become the president of India. Although so far, all the presidents that we have are presidents who are citizens of India by their birth. Now, loss of citizenship. There are different ways in which a person can lose his citizenship. What all are these ways? There are three important ways. First is renunciation, second is termination, and third is deprivation. What is renunciation? It essentially means that a person can renunciate, can actually choose to be a citizen of some other country, and when he chooses to do so, he renunciates being a part of India. That is, he renunciates his citizenship of India. Then termination. This mainly applies to people who have taken citizenship by registration, or for that matter, by the other forms, and the person can actually be terminated. Citizenship can be terminated, or for that matter, a person who has been made the citizen, his citizenship will also be deprived. In both these cases, what exactly do we need to understand? Essentially, what we need to understand is that on those matters, when the government feels that a person who was given the citizenship, be it on the basis of nationalization or for that matter on the basis of registration, that person has not acted in a manner which is loyal to India, that person has acted in a manner in which he was trying to fraud the officials, or any such activities which cannot be called as right, which cannot be called as a person suiting to be citizen of India. In such circumstances, government can terminate and deprive someone's citizenship. This again is something that you can keep in mind. Now, another important feature of Indian Constitution and Indian citizenship is that there is a provision of single citizenship. This is a topic that we touched upon even during the time when I was trying to explain that India is a quasi-federal country. That is, we are union of state and we are not federation of states. और उसका एक important point ये था कि इंडिया फेडरेशन इसलिए नहीं है क्योंकि इंडिया में सिंगल सिटीजनशिप होती है. दैट इज, जैसे हम यूएस की बात करते हैं जो एक फेडरल कंट्री है, वहाँ पे अ पर्सन हैज सिटीजनशिप विद रिस्पेक्ट टू बोथ हिज स्टेट एज वेल एज फॉर हिज कंट्री. But when we talk about India, we have only one citizenship, and that is citizenship of being a citizen of India. That applies to a person who's staying in Uttar Pradesh, that applies to a person who's staying in Tamil Nadu, that applies to a person who's staying in Assam, or for that matter, in Gujarat. I hope this point is clear. In countries like US and Switzerland, what exactly we see? The concept of dual citizenship. What is dual citizenship? That every state has separate citizenship for its citizen. In such states, what exactly happens? State confers special rights for state citizens in matter of voting, employment, etc. There is no provision for separate state by citizenship when we talk about India. So I hope this point is clear that there is no provision of dual citizenship. In dual citizenship, what happens? That state is conferring special rights to their own citizens, to the citizens of the state. That may pertains to voting, that even the election that might be happening might require only people of that particular state to be having the power to go and vote. So state can actually make those laws. In the same way, state can also make laws with respect to employment, where they try to make or generate employment only for the people who are holding their state's membership. I hope this point is clear. कि state dual citizenship जैसे सिस्टम में उनके पास ये अधिकार होता है कि वो इस तरह के कानून पास करे जहां वो वोटिंग में बात कर दे उन लोगों को जो स्टेट की सिटीजनशिप नहीं रखते हैं, और फॉर दैट मैटर वो बार कर दे एम्प्लॉयमेंट अपॉर्चुनिटीज उन लोगों को जो स्टेट के रेजिडेंट्स और स्टेट के सिटीजन्स नहीं है. Constitution also bars Indian citizens from acquiring citizenship of another country under this. Then Constitution of India provides some exceptions related to residence. This again is something which is very important and has been asked in prelims examination. What exactly is the statement? Essentially वो ये कहता है कि जो भारत का संविधान है वो कुछ रेजिडेंस एक ऐसा मुद्दा है, एक ऐसा क्राइटेरिया है जहाँ पे वो ये नहीं मानता कि डिस्क्रिमिनेशन गलत है. दैट इज जब हम आर्टिकल 15 की बात करते हैं, बट एग्जैक्टली डू वी टॉक अबाउट डिस्क्रिमिनेशन इज प्रोहिबिटेड इन द ग्राउंड्स ऑफ रिलीजन, रेस, कास्ट, सेक्स, प्लेस ऑफ बर्थ बट नॉट रेजिडेंस. व्हाट एग्जैक्टली आर वी ट्राइंग टू से कि आर्टिकल 15 ये बार नहीं लगाता है स्टेट गवर्नमेंट पे कि जब वो आर्टिकल 15 को इम्प्लीमेंट कर रहे हैं तो उनको रेजिडेंस को एक क्राइटेरिया रखना पड़ेगा. दैट इज अगर रेजिडेंस के बेसिस पे if a person is not residing, if the person does not have the domicile of a certain state can actually pass a law by which it can prefer the people of their own domicile. जैसा कि आप स्टेट पीसीएस एग्जाम में भी देखते होंगे कि 50% सीट्स, 45% सीट्स, 60% सीट्स are reserved for the people of the same state, that is residence and not the citizenship. This again is something that you need to keep in mind कि जो स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स होती हैं जब वो पीसीएस एग्जामिनेशन में रिजर्वेशन रख देती हैं स्टेट रेजिडेंस के लिए तो वो सिटीजनशिप क्राइटेरिया नहीं होता है, वो डोमिसाइल क्राइटेरिया होता है. This is what we are trying to say here, and this is an important point to note that residence cannot be taken as a grounds of discrimination. Or rather, residence can be taken as a ground for discrimination in order to make policies by the state when it comes to creating job opportunities. State government job opportunities इस तरीके से create कर सकता है जहाँ वो अपने लोगों को, अपने state के residents को priority दे, reservation दे. So state government can make special provisions for residents of the state in those matters which do not come under the purview of rights guaranteed by the Constitution. So under Article 16, Parliament can prescribe residence within a state or union territory as a condition for employment. This again is something that we just shut off for discuss. कि Article 16 के लिए भी Parliament prescribe कर सकता है residence within a state to be a criteria. Then Article 19 क्या कहता है? Freedom of movement is subject to interest of the scheduled tribe to protect this culture, customs and manners. This is slightly less important but still something that you can keep in mind. We will be studying this point while we study Article 19. Essentially Article 19 क्या कहता है? Apart from other things, it also says freedom of movement. That is, a person who is a citizen of India can freely move all across India and he does not need to take permission from anyone. But this free movement is not applicable with respect to scheduled areas, क्योंकि scheduled areas में अगर जो नागरिक है, जो बाकी के लोग हैं, बाकी के सिटीजन्स है, वो फ्रीली मूव करेंगे तो क्या हो जाएगा? हो ये जाएगा कि उनका कल्चर जो हम प्रोटेक्ट करना चाहते हैं वो डिस्टर्ब हो जाएगा. इस चीज को ध्यान में रखते हुए आर्टिकल 19 में एक सब क्लॉज डाला गया, एक प्रोविजन डाला गया, प्रोविजो डाला गया कि with respect to movement, free movement, that is a right for every citizen under Article 19, it does not apply for free movement in scheduled areas जिनके culture को protect करना है. So students, this is all that we had for this lecture. We have studied about Article 5, Article 6, Article 7 and Article 8. We have studied about that with respect to citizenship, we have Article 5 to Article 11, which makes the Part 2 of Indian Constitution. We studied about the fact that with respect to the framework, this Article 5 to Article 11 is giving us, but जो detailing है वो इंडिया सिटीजनशिप एक्ट ऑफ 1955 उससे आती है, जिसको बहुत बार अमेंड किया जा चुका है. हमने डिफरेंट तरीके जिससे एक आदमी एक्वायर कर सकता है सिटीजनशिप, उसके बारे में बात की. हमने वो तरीकों के बारे में भी बात की जहाँ सिटीजनशिप टर्मिनेट हो सकती है. हमने इस बारे में भी बात की कि जब हम बात करते हैं सिटीजनशिप की, इंडिया में सिंगल सिटीजनशिप है, इंडिया में डुअल सिटीजनशिप जैसा कंसेप्ट नहीं है जो यूएसए और स्विट्जरलैंड जैसे देशों में है. हमने ये भी बात की that while we do not have dual citizenship and constitution does not bar the state legislative assembly or for that matter parliament to make those laws where residence becomes a ground of discrimination. अगर रेजिडेंस में आपने अपने रेजिडेंस को प्रायोरिटी दी है तब आपको ये अधिकार है कि आप वैसे प्रोविजंस बना दें और इसको असंवैधानिक नहीं कहा जाएगा, इसको नॉन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल नहीं कहा जाएगा. Students, I hope this session was helpful to you all. For more such videos, please log on to Scholar. Thank you.